Hey folks, Creedmoor Fury here, and I finally got around to putting this little video together demonstrating some of the things I did to put this box together. Here you'll see a material list. Very simple. This stuff can be gotten pretty much anywhere at your local hardware store or home center. They have it all. The tools I used were basic tin snips. The rolls come already in 12, 14, or 16-inch sheets, so it's fairly easy to use as long as you're careful. You don't see me wearing gloves, but I definitely recommend you do so because the edges and corners of these things can come out and bite you from time to time, and I'd hate to be suggesting that we do something in an unsafe manner. It's just not worth it. But as you'll see here, I'm marking out the top and bottom flange locations. I need 1 inch on top and 1 inch on the bottom. One of the flanges will be bent at 90 degrees, and the other flange will be bent all the way over to act kind of like a rigid top edge, and also to eliminate the chances of me cutting myself when I make contact with that sharp edge. So you see me here tapping it out with a ball peen hammer. This is my great-grandfather's hammer. I love using it. It's extra special for me. And certainly, by all means, you want to use a small hammer. You don't necessarily need something that's really huge. You're more likely to hurt yourself if you do. But anyway, we tap that out until it's smooth. And you'll see here as I slide it underneath this straight edge, I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler as a prop to keep it up enough. That'll keep it from getting caught up too much. And then I'm going to measure out 1 inch, and I'm going to bend that. But first I'm going to throw my ruler on the floor. I'll get that later. A couple of clamps, we can get it nice and snug. It'll hold it in place. It'll keep it from moving around, and it'll allow us to have a nice consistent edge on that flange. And anyway, the reason for this flange is we're going to attach the screen to it later on. We're going to use something that they call S-lock to slide over the screen and over this little flange, and then we'll put some screws in it to hold it in place. It works really, really well, and the reason I like doing it this way is because I know later on that even though it's a galvanized screen, there's a good chance that screen is going to rust out. It is going up against fully iron-laden soils that have all kinds of salts in them down there, and I am going to be removing all of the Eden soil off of the top of the earth, and I'm going to press this box into the ground to the point where the screen touches the earth, and then it will get filled with the finest Eden soil I have. I will be sifting the soil. You'll see at the end of the video there's going to be some pictures of me with the sifted soil in a wheelbarrow, and then you'll see it installed into the box. Shortly afterwards, I've seeded it. It is cold at this point right now. Y'all can see me wearing my sweat jacket. It's chilly in the shop. I like to work like that. Feels better that way on the body. But also because, more importantly, I want to get my seeds in the ground while it's still cold. In this particular example, I'm going to be making a box and then covering that box with an old window that I got from a project I was working on. And that window will act like a cold frame, and I'll be able to open it and close it on days where, there's no chance of it being cold. I can open it up and let some of the heat escape, and I can close it up before it gets too cold. And the wood chips down below, even though they're not in a high or rapid state of decay, they're still going to maintain some nice warm temperatures, even though it'll be in January or February when I'm planting. I want that to be always a part of the process. The degrading chips, the breakdown of the chips is going to create a little bit of warmth around there. Not a whole lot, but certainly enough for me to take advantage of it. And here you see me tapping out this flange. I want to make sure that flange has a nice crisp corner. We don't want to have any little dents or dings in it that are going to take away from my ability to get the S-lock to slide over it and the screen. Great Granddaddy's hammer coming in handy. So there you can see I have the two sides that are 48 inches long and the two end pieces. They're about 2 foot long. Now here you've seen that I've already screwed the corners together. There are some pictures at the end of the video that give you a better idea, but for the purpose of expediting the video a little quicker, I've left some things out that are less important. If you can use a screw gun or a drill like I'm using it here in a safe manner, this task is really easy. Pretty much anyone can do it. I like to use the self-tapping screws because I don't have to drill every hole. But in the case here, you see me drilling the holes because it's going through 2 layers of sheet metal and then into that, I believe I used cedar for this, into those wooden strips that are on the edge. Those wooden strips, I figured to put them on there because there's a chance that I might affix a permanent window to it with a hinge, and also because I wanted it to be a little bit more rigid than just, you know, the metal. Metal can be flimsy. We don't want it flimsy. We're going to be getting in and out of this box a lot with our hands. I'll be kneeling down on the ground gently, and at this point at least, I was anticipating putting a lot of seeds in this box and doing kind of what Paul suggests, is to let them go, let them come up, and then you can cull them out a little bit at a time. But if you let them grow big enough, you can get some small carrots and then remove those for eating. They're delicious. And as you remove them, you're going to allow a little bit more space in between the carrots adjacent to them. So I'll get 3 rows very easily, 4 rows if I plant it tight. It's 2 foot, so you should be able to get plenty in there, and provided I can amend the soil properly, if I remember to, the carrots will grow without too much trouble. They'll grow very quickly. A little spoiler alert, I forgot to feed the soil. But it's okay, because I'm making this video after I've already started to harvest, and in spite of the fact that I forgot to feed the soil, everything grew incredibly. And the minor feeding that I did afterwards with just the Alaskan fish emulsion, it's really all they need. The soils are fertile. You'll see that. If you don't have a older Eden bed somewhere, you might not really understand what I'm saying. But in time, the wood chips break down. They're so hydrophilic, they take up every little bit of moisture. I'm constantly feeding with fish emulsion. I'm also amending plots individually. Rather routinely. I like to make sure when I start a crop it has the necessary nutrients, but I do not like to overfeed because that leads to other problems. We'll get to that later. But in this case, I do want to mention, I forgot to do so. I just ended up excavating the soil out, and I was in such a hurry. We sifted it with a 1/2-inch mesh screen, I believe, and I put the soil right back into it and dropped seeds like the very next day. But it's okay because the soil was perfect, and the carrots are coming out beautifully, and they're so delicious. I wish I could share the flavor with y'all. So here you see me laying that screen on top. I'm going to basically just clip it in place. At this point in time, when I was doing this construction, I didn't have the S-lock. I had to leave to get it, so the video cuts, and you won't actually see me put it on, but the gentleman that gave me the S-lock showed up, and he helped me get it on there. He's a heating and air contractor, mechanical contractor. He's very skilled at this sort of stuff. Old school tin knocker too, so it was really nice to have him around. He didn't exactly agree to be put on video footage, so naturally I respected his wishes to keep that portion private, and later on in the video, after the video ends, you'll see there are pictures at the end. They show you the S-lock in place. So you can pause the video and you can blow it up and you get a good close look at it. But any mechanical supply house, sometimes some of the home centers sell it if you ask for it by name, or so I'm told. The gentleman who gave me the S-lock, I built a garden for him, and he was more than happy to come over and lend a hand. So I just reached out to the community and was naturally blessed by what he had to offer. And here you can see how the flange looks. We just simply slipped the S-lock over that edge, holding and captivating everything, put a few screws in it, and we were done. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. And towards the end of the video, you'll see I've got pictures of the ground that I excavated out, the location where the box ended up, and the soil that I ended up putting back into it. I basically just sifted it out and made a pile and then put it back. So you can do the same thing. I'm very fortunate. It's been 8 years we've been growing in these beds, so they're not without nutrients on their own. As a standalone soil, they really work well. Typically, I'll pull out some of these soils. I refer to them as surrogate soils. I'll sift them out, and that's what I use for my seed germinating. Occasionally, if I want to spread it a little further, I do have a soil blend I like to add to it. But I didn't have to do that in this case. We just used Eden soil, and I'm getting the best carrots that I've ever had out of it. So, anyway, this is what we're looking to do. We're looking to put a screen towards the earth and keep the moles and the voles from being able to dig into play. I don't want them eating my carrots. I'm not sharing with them. As far as I'm concerned, they are trespassing, and I would appreciate it if they would go to someone else's farm and stay away from mine. But basically, this is what we're looking at here. It'll get flipped over. In the next few moments, you'll see all the pictures of how it went down in the garden, and hopefully you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know I was, especially since right now it is July 11th, and I've only taken maybe 10% of the carrots out. They haven't bolted. Over the next few weeks, I believe I will be removing the rest. Enjoy. Okay, so here you see the raw material and the T-square I used. There's the scissors. Here's the sheet stock marked out to the correct size. It'll be cut. Here I'm cutting the corners so I can form the outside. There's the outside form before screwing. There's it after screwing with the wooden frame on the inside. There's the screen on the bottom. It's fully assembled. And this is about where it's going to end up. We excavated the soil out using that tool right there, my favorite tool, all the way to the bottom. Then it was put in place, semi-leveled, filled in around it, and added the soil back into place. After seeding, I used this window to keep the seeds safe. I used that water jug to water a little, and they came up about a week later. There you can see some garlic in the foreground, and now they're starting to show signs of life. Now look at all those rows I got in there. Gosh, it's wonderful. See the development over time. I kept taking pictures. I'm glad I did. Here you see the top of it. I shoved a little bit of soil over the top of that. We harvested some of these, loving every bit of it. It made a little bit of space and they got bigger. Like and subscribe.